The time has come. It's finally time to start working on a project that I've been thinking about the solution for months and months and months. As you know, we are building this 43-foot deck saloon aluminum sailboat, and that means we have a lot of glass on the deck saloon, and all this glass is gonna be glued, it's gonna be bound in place with a specific kind of Sika for gluing windows on a boat. So that's check, it's all good, it's gonna be safe. The problem we have is that we have another glass that we are a little bit worried about. That is, there are the portholes. In theory, a lot of boatyards just build the same frame as the deck saloon on the porthole and just glue a window in. So this is the plate of the boat. This is the outside, this is the inside of the boat, and the glass was gonna be glued here. So you apply glue on this area and you apply sealant on this area and you're good to go. This solution is not wrong. This solution is used in many boats, and nowadays glues like Sikaflex are so good that it can hold. My problem with that is that when you're talking about a porthole that is this far from the bow and this far from the water line, it's a lot less safe than that window. Even though that window is much bigger, it's in a much better position to not have waves crashing all the time. Here, waves are gonna crash on these portholes all the time. So we need a different solution for that. And for that, I believe we needed a framing system. Quick disclaimer, this idea is not my idea. We friendly stole an idea from a boatyard that we really like and that we visit many times, KM Yachts. And we are gonna use their solution and adapt their solution to our needs, to our boat. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna confuse you more or if I'm gonna make it more clear, but I'm gonna try. So here's the plate of the boat. Here's the outside, here's the inside, here's the frame that we are gonna build right now. And this glass, this time, instead of gluing from the outside to the inside, is gonna be glued from the inside to the outside, touching this recess on the frame with structural glue on both sides, dilatation space for the glass and the aluminum to dilatate differently, then a rubber ring, and then another ring on the inside to make sure the glass stays in place, because in case a wave hits the glass and for some reason the glue fail, the ring is going to mechanically hold the window in position. And that's what we're going to start working on today, because we've been drawing the solution for months, and now is finally the day that Robland is going to start cutting the frames. If you don't know who Robland is, you probably didn't watch any of our videos. Robland is the place where we live. So we live and we are building the boat inside one of our partners' factory. This factory, they manufacture woodworking machinery, like, for example, this machine, or that machine, or that machine, or this machine. And these guys been helping us so much just by letting us use the space to build the boat here. We just need to say thank you to them. And also they are helping us by letting us hire their employees with their knowledge and their good machines to build what we need in order to make the boat the best boat we can build. So Francis, the same guy that did the CNC cut of the logo of our boat on the side, he is CNC machining the frame for the hatch, and it's just beautiful. I saw yesterday the prototype. So he did a prototype in MDF, and the prototype was just to understand the step by step, because it's so complex that he needs to know which tool to start using, which tool to start later, the order of things. And now that he's confident on the project, he's gonna do the real one. That's pretty cool. Can you hear this noise? This is Peter actually in the factory grinding the hatches that he's finishing for the lazarets on the cockpit. And at the same time, Francis is already working on the frames. That's pretty cool. I think the machine is working. Ooh, that looks beautiful. This one is going to be a little bit harder to film than the other parts that we filmed there, because it's so heavy what he's doing that it's just hard to keep the door open. He needs a lot of coolant in order to do it properly, so it needs to be closed, the door. But it's gonna look something like this. That's the prototype. Crazy thing, I don't know if you can hear me, it always starts with a solid block. That's so cool, yeah. It takes a long time, so I'm gonna check on Peter that's welding the other parts and let him work a little bit, because that's just the first one out of 7 portholes. It's a lot of work there. Thanks a lot, Francis, you're just awesome. It's gonna be a little bit heavy, yes, but we are talking about safety first and then a little bit of penalty on the weight side, but I think it's totally worth. Good news, frame number 1 is ready. I'm really curious to see how heavy this is. It's just beautiful. Now that he done the first one, he fixed all the design problems. Now it's much faster to do the rest. And of course I'm gonna skip this. You don't need to see him building like 7 of those. You can see 1 and then you see all ready. That's it. That's ready. That's so beautiful. That's just, for me, that's a piece of art, to be honest. So let me explain you really quick how this is gonna work, because I think now it's gonna be a lot easier to make sense. So imagine that this table is the boat. So here is the plate of the boat, and here is the porthole. I'm the outside, the table is the inside of the boat. If I look through here, I will see the inside of the boat. And this really heavy frame is going to be welded all around to the hull of the boat. The glass is going to come from the inside and be sandwiched between this frame and this backup ring. So instead of just being glued to the frame, it's going to be glue and screw to the frame. And the reason for that is because usually when you have glue windows, they just come from the outside, not from the inside. And the reason for that is because imagine if a wave crashed into the boat and the glass comes from the inside, the wave is going to try to push the glass out of the frame, and that's a problem, because if the glue fails, you're going to just lose the glass. The glass is going to go to the inside of the boat. If the glass was on the outside, like this, a wave would actually hold the glass in place. And so you're probably thinking, so why didn't you install that way? Because if I install that way and I wanted to have a backup ring, the backup ring should be bolted to the outside of the boat. Yes, it is a possibility, but I don't really like this possibility. It just looks so weird to have a frame on the boat. I mean, some boats have, but I just don't like the solution. I prefer to flip around, also because I don't want the glass to be flush with the plate of the boat. In this way, I don't know if you realize, but we have 35 millimeters of depth in between the glass and the outside. And that means the glass is going to be not sticking out, it's going to be inside. And that means if we hit the boat somewhere, like a dock or anything else, it's going to hit the frame, it's not going to hit the glass. The glass is going to be safer farther from the surface. So the idea is we're going to glue the glass in position just as a normal glue glass, just glue in position with a gap all in between, of course, for dilatation, because the aluminum and the glass dilatate different, so it can shrink and expand. And then we have this backup ring. But in between the backup ring and the frame and the glass, we are going to have a rubber, otherwise the frame is going to touch the glass and we can damage the glass. So glass, rubber, backup ring with a M6 bolt or screw around every 5 centimeters. For me, this is just a bulletproof system. We're going to have also a laminated glass that is 5 millimeters glass the glue and another 5 millimeters glass, so that means 10 millimeters glass. That's pretty thick, and I think it's totally worth the little compromise that is the weight. The only compromise for me on this design is of course the cost of building it. This was not cheap at all, so we spent on materials around 1,000 euros for 7 portholes, plus the time of the machining. And the glass, of course, it's really expensive because it's laminated glass, but it would be expensive anyways, even if it was just glue. The glass is just the glass. So the frame, we spent a little bit more money than the normal frame, but at the same time we gain a lot of strength. And there is also one more thing that helps a lot with this frame, that we are welding a really thick frame to the hull of the boat, and that means it's much harder to get this warp. A normal frame is much more sensitive to heat, and the hull of the boat is so thick that of course what would give up would be the frame, not the hull of the boat. And that means with the shape of the hull of the boat, it would be really hard to have a straight frame welded to that shape. With this, we are much more guaranteed that we can actually weld and keep the shape and have a proper sealed window. Also, I don't know if you realize, but on the bow of the boat, we have a much longer porthole instead of this small one. The reason why we didn't build a long porthole is because we, first of all, don't think it's necessary to have such a wide porthole. I think that's more than enough to see the outside. And we think it's a lot more fragile to have such a big glass on the bow of the boat. So we decided to have 2 small ones instead of 1 big. The idea is to weld one in one of the ends of that hole, another one on the other end, and then we're gonna weld something in between to close the gap. In this way we're gonna have a good view, but we're gonna have 2 small portholes instead of 1 long. We do understand why the Boatyard did that. The reason why the Boatyard did that is because our boat has a really high freeboard, and that means it could feel like the boat is too high and too short. Having long portholes, it means gives the boat the look of a much longer boat. It's just a design feature to help with the overall view of the boat, and it makes sense. I do agree on that, it makes sense, but I think in this way it's gonna still look like a long porthole, but it's gonna be 2 smaller ones that is much harder to break, because breaking a porthole on the bow, it wouldn't be fun. By the way, we're gonna have 7 portholes, 4 on the bow cabin, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're gonna have 1 in the head, that's gonna be right there, another 1 in our cabin, that's right there, and another 1 on the galley right there. Of course we're gonna have way more on the bow, but that's because we already had the hull, otherwise I would just put 1 and 1, but it is what it is. It's gonna be a really bright cabin. In our cabin we're gonna have just 1 there, but we have a hatch here, so it's going to be 1 hatch here and 1 porthole there. And also, I don't like a lot of light in the cabin. I prefer to have a little bit more of a dark cabin so I can sleep better. And when I want, I can just look through the 1 porthole we have, and I can open the hatch, and that's all good. That's awesome. And even though it's heavy, I think it's going to be totally worth. Before you go, just one last thing. We need to guess how much this weighs. Let's see. Ooh. 8.5 kilos. Yeah, that's pretty heavy, but it's still, I think it's totally worth. Remember, oh, you don't remember because you don't know, but we are gonna take a lot of weight off the deck saloon windows. The deck saloon windows were gonna be double glazed. We're not gonna do double glazed anymore. We're gonna explain you why when we work on that really soon. But we're gonna take a lot of weight from the deck saloon windows, and we're putting a little bit of weight down to the portholes, and that means we're getting better stability this way than before. So to be honest, every time I look through these portholes, it's just gonna be like I will remember the process of machining and the amount of thinking that went through, and the amount of design and the amount of engineering. And that's awesome, because it seems like you just put in the machine and it comes ready. It went so many hours into thinking the right tooling to use, the right process, the right step by step during a template, and that's all thanks to Francis. Francis, you are just awesome. This wouldn't be possible without Robland and without Francis. We would not hire someone else outside to do that. We would just build a normal frame. But as we are here and we have the possibility, we are like, let's go the little extra mile to just get it properly done like we want. and I think it's totally worth. And Francis, you're just awesome. Robland, you're just awesome. Thank you guys. We really, really appreciate, and we see you on the next one.